Hey, good morning, guys. I'm just going to give live stream, or I'm going to give YouTube a chance to catch up to this live stream. I've been finding that it's cutting off the beginnings of my live stream. So in just a moment here, we'll get started. But got a great show for you today. If you've been doing developing and especially full stack development, and you've been looking at these technologies, React, Node.js, Angular, etc. Got some insight for you guys today. But I'm going to just pray and hope that the live stream is working good now. We'll get started, and be sure you stay tuned, and got lots of good stuff to talk to you about. Hey, Frank Thomas. I'm glad to be with you here this morning. As I precluded in the introduction, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of these frameworks, these JavaScript-based frameworks that are designed for a better presentation. I was looking at them, and to be honest with you, I've done lots of work with MVC.NET, and I was able to get a lot of things the way I wanted to see them, but there's always sometimes, it's like, okay, well, this is a web page. This is a web page. And you have to think of what the philosophy here was, and that, it's a web page, so it is what it is, and there's going to be inherent limitations because you're working within a browser, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I was looking at a job that was looking for somebody who had some Angular experience. Just give me a second. I have a little bit of Timmy's here. A little bit of Angular experience, and I was like, I'm seeing a lot of jobs asking for this, and there's other technologies like React. There's Node.js. It's not a presentation technology. It's more of a technology for data handling, for handling transactions to a server. But specifically Angular, and AngularJS was the other one I was looking at. And I was like, okay, what's the difference? First off, AngularJS is the first iteration of Angular, which came out, I believe, in 2010. And since then, it has been updated as Angular. And the big difference was from version 1 to version 2, they completely rewrote the engine. One was written in full JavaScript. The other one was written in something called TypeScript. And TypeScript is, apparently it's a better language. It's got object-oriented properties in it. And it's a lot tighter. It's almost like saying JavaScript and jQuery. That's kind of my spin on things on it. But, and if you have a different spin, add a comment below. I'd like to hear your point of view on that. But the thing that I noticed was that first of all, I was talking to a friend of mine about, learning Angular, and he said, oh, you want to become a rocket scientist, do you? And I was like, it can't be that difficult. When I started digging into it, TypeScript is definitely a slightly different language. It's got a different feel, slightly different syntax, whereas JavaScript's pretty easy to pick up. If you know how to program in C# or Java, JavaScript's pretty easy because a lot of the language the look and feel is a lot the same, whereas TypeScript is a little different. And not totally different, just a little bit different. And so I'm digging into that now. But the big question was, why would I bother with this? That was the big question. Why would I put this presentation layer on top? And I was thinking about it this morning, and I was thinking, the big thing is its whole purpose is to create SPA, single page applications. And that's the difference, is the application. The Angular gives you a much, much tighter feel of an application. It lets you swipe things in, lets you change screens dynamically. Even though it's just a single page, it could still be a single page, it could be multiple page if you want to. The whole idea is you're creating component building blocks, and you're pulling them in and pulling them out of the page as need be. That's very cool. And I think in that itself, it makes it worthwhile to begin to understand. AngularJS, because it's an older technology, I don't know if I would put a lot of time into that, but the Angular for sure. That's something I would say. As a developer, learning TypeScript and Angular is going to be the way things go, just as learning jQuery was an important step in my development in JavaScript, learning jQuery shaved a lot of time off because it became a library that just made sure things worked. And I think that's going to be an important step going forward. This kind of reminds me of when desktops were being developed, like desktop applications in Windows. One of the first tools that they came out with was a very difficult tool to create a presentation with like a screen display, like your actual, how it looks when an application looks. You had to basically write everything from scratch, and it was ugly. It was almost like the days of coding in machine language. So it was terrible. I can't remember the name of it. It's killing me too. Windows, that's how long it's been since I've used it. But it was painful, and it made learning programming initially almost impossible. When I think Microsoft saw this, and he brought out the WinForms platform, which allowed you to make really quick and easy desktop displays. You could drag stuff on the screen, and it just cut all the code for you, which is awesome. And in the days of fixed screen displays, when you had a 1024 by 768 or whatever it was, or 800 by 600, it made sense. But with the varying screens, varying devices, phone, desktop, it's almost like taking a web page that was designed not to be responsive to being responsive. Like things just didn't work out. It wasn't accessible across devices. Now, even if you took the code core and actually migrated it to the other device, of course. But the big problem here was it was not flexible. The screen displays had some problems, wasn't flexible. It was old looking over time. It was like it turned into the 70s brown sink, for a good way to put it. And even though it was very, very easy to use, and it's actually still used today, what has helped it, though, is there's been a lot of libraries that have come out to overlay the new look and feel. You didn't get responsiveness, but you get a new look and feel. So you can get a cleaner looking application out of it, which is awesome. So you get the flexibility, but then you get the newer look, the newer feel. When Windows Presentation Foundation came out, and the WPF, it was supposed to be a boon. It was supposed to be okay, this is going to be great, and it's going to make it so displays could be very responsive on the desktop, fit multi-screens. It's a great technology, but crap, you need a degree to understand it. I went through and learned a lot of it, and I would have to use it for a while, to be honest with you, to make it worth my while. I found, because I was doing so much more web development, and also too, there's another question to be asked, and is it worthwhile to do it on Windows desktop? Because now you're fixed to the Windows platform. You can't run it on an Android. You can't run it on a Mac. You can't run it on Linux. We're not in a single platform world anymore. We're in a multi-platform world, and the web was the way to go. And protection of your code. Like when you build a Windows application, it's a matter of time before somebody tears it apart, cracks it, and puts it onto the dark web or black hat sites or whatever. It's just a matter of time, and no matter what you do. But when you create it as a service and it's on a website, there's a fixed cost to running that. But the cool thing is your code is protected. Unless somebody can hack into that server, your code is protected. And they can at very best think of how they could recreate. And I'll be honest with you, there's some very great crackers, but most people who are crackers, and I'm sorry to say this, come on guys, write your own software. Come on. Don't be lazy, write your own software. Some of the algorithms that us as developers figure out are pretty hairy. And, we've invested weeks and weeks of our lives to make this work. And this is the reason why I went to the whole the software as a service model, like the web model, and why I like things like Angular. So this is where this all comes back. And because I can get that look and feel of the desktop in a web browser. And I think that's what makes it a very reasonable technology to learn, to invest into, if you're a full stack developer, even in Java or in C#. I recommend looking into this. This is something that that will make you into a rocket scientist. It is definitely another layer of extraction or abstraction, because what's happening now is you're developing the front end separate from the back end. You use, let's say, MVC to build all your services to tie into your database, and then you use Angular to talk to those services in the MVC. And so you could be operating in two different applications. Like I'm running Visual Studio to do one thing, and Visual Studio Code to build the other piece. And I'm moving back and forth continuously. So it's worthwhile. I think it is really worthwhile. I really just started down this road of learning Angular and spending some serious head time into it. I believe that it is an emerging technology. It's an evolving technology. There's other technologies coming out to compete with it, but I believe that it does have a lot of backing. It has a lot of people on Git that are watching it. So I do think it's very worthwhile to learn. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to say about that. That's pretty much it. But is it something that you got to do right away? I don't know. I think if you don't have a good understanding of the MVC model, how to use Razor, how to program in JavaScript, jQuery, how to manipulate the DOM that way, how to create APIs, RESTful APIs, things like that. That's really the first step. Get really tight with that. Get to really know that. Make sure you can build an application with the standard tools that are in the box. And then once you've got that down and you've got it licked and you don't really have to think, you know where everything is. And that's a big thing too I've discovered is in the beginning when I first started to program in the MVC, even in web forms, I had to figure out where everything lived, like in the directory structure of the project. And over time, it naturally came because you're always looking for the same things over and over. So what happens is you find where things live and where they can go. And I think what makes it difficult too is there's more than one way to get the job done. And, you can use 3 different screwdrivers in your toolbox to tighten that screw. And sometimes that adds to the confusion of actually memorizing and learning something. It's good. Again, things evolve, things emerge, things change. But we have to think of that as well. But once you've got that licked, building you can build a full website with the tools in the box, and then consider building the APIs that talk to those same functions and features, and then build an extraction layer of classes that are talking to. Don't put all your logic into your. And I don't like doing that anyhow. I don't like putting my logic into my controllers. I like to call my logic from the controllers. And that way I have greater control, as well as if I want to create a RESTful API, I'm not rewriting the same code. It's already been separated out in its own area of the project. It could be a totally separate project, which is tied to this project. There's lots of ways to do this. And then start building in the beginnings of Angular. Like I would recommend actually having a project where you're doing CRUD operations, and you're going in, you're touching records, you're pulling lists of records, you're removing records, you're adding new records, the whole 9 yards. You're updating the whole 9 yards. So look at that, and I think it's worth your while. Now the question is, should you learn AngularJS or Angular? I recommend Angular all the way because it is the newer technology. AngularJS is still out there. It is still something that's being used. And unfortunately, it's something we might have to learn. And I don't think it's unfortunate. It just is what it is. We have to learn it, to understand it, to migrate from it. Because I do hear that it's a lot different. This is a bit of an experience I just don't have yet. But I believe that learning Angular for sure is going to be something that's going to be really important. Of other technologies like React and Vue, I don't know yet. That's something I've got to figure out. But I hope that was insightful. I hope that helped you guys out and gives you something to think about. And yeah, we'll go from there. But thank you for joining me today. And be sure to subscribe if you want to get notification. Make sure you hit the notification bell and you become a super subscriber. and stay tuned for the next show. Thanks so much, guys.